for the last portfolio. Okay, so my sustained investigation will be how to use, more abstractive forms to show uh, my thinking process and how to apply Swan elements to show a sense of elegance within my thinking process. And a lot of my works are inspired by Hima Klint. She was a famous Danish artist who really revolutionized the Danish abstract painting movement and the automatic painting movement. And I was really inspired by her style and her technique in making arts. Okay, so the first one, I use graphite pencil to sketch some human figures and swan figures, and together they kind of show like the interchange between the physical reality and the internal, more abstractive thinking, and also use the color pencil to paint the line in the middle to show like the fluidity of thinking and how like all parts of your thinking can be connected together. And these are just some sketches I did to like explore what direction I should take. Like you can see there are graphite pencil, there are color pencil, there's the watercolor and acrylics, everything basically. And this one is a relatively larger piece I did with chalk paints and stencil and spray paints. I add these lines in the background to show like my chaotic brain, and I use like the opposite color swans to show how my mind works. I call it polar thinking, like it kind of jumps from one point to the other like immediately sometimes. It's like very active. It's hard to explain, but so that's why one of the reasons why I use 2D art to express how my mind works. And this one, I cut out a swan shape in the middle of the paper and added all these figures and this big line throughout the painting. And this line kind of symbolizes how like a simple input can result as simple output, but what people don't see is that there are so many things going on in one's brain. And like for example, you can be really analytical and overthinking a lot of times, and it's hard to describe what kind of the feeling is when you're overthinking, but it's just hard to describe, but you can see in the middle, this is kind of what my brain showed me when I'm kind of overthinking a lot of things. And this is a series I did, which very, very inspired by Hima Klint, like the color theme and like the series kind of like the abstractive things. I did like different part of swans, and in the third one I did like I kind of made like the swans into almost like a snake shape to show like how like a lot of things on like materials, like they can be changing to other form a lot of times, because when you're thinking, you're not a lot of times not controlled by material stuff. So it can be really fluent, it can be really immaterial. And this one is really just the 3D structure I made with 3 pieces of pencil sketch, and I connected them with like ribbons to show how like our thinking can be manifested into like physical reality, like how maybe my hands right now, how my hands look like right now is because of my thinking before. Maybe I thought about, okay, it's a little bit dry, okay, I get some lotion, and so my thinking contributed to my physical reality. So this is kind of how it like worked out, basically. And this one, so like during spring break last year, I kind of like broke a piece of glass on my ground, and I figured out, oh, it's probably kind of cool to use like glass and mirror to use as medium for paintings. So I just basically made the piece on the right, and the left was just a study for the right one. And this one was a really intuitive painting. I made like a random watercolor mark on the paper, and I added some abstract swans in the middle on top of the watercolor paint, and I added some more concrete, more realistic swans around it, and to show like the contrast between, you know, abstract thoughts into more concrete expression. And this one's one of my favorites. So in the middle, there's a egg-like form that shows kind of like an origin, and it gradually developed into a more concrete swan. As you can see, as it's developed, it turns to different colors and different complexity. It kind of shows how like abstract ideas can develop into something more mature. Basically the same ideas as the few paintings before, but experimented with a more mature acrylic application. And the 10th one is also a relatively larger piece. It's like about this size. It's on canvas board, and the egg in the middle also I call it like an origin or an eye, and it kind of shows how my brain works. Like it develops ideas in the same time, and the ideas that were developed in my brain are usually very different in different maturity. Like some of them are like swans, just very obvious swans, or some of them are like lines, but I also call them swan because I always feel like they're in my brain. There are parts of the swan that are like written from like the actual swans. And also you can see there are some structured geometries. There are some like eggs around the big eggs. So yeah, that's how my brain works kind of. In this one, so you can see there's a swan neck and a swan head on the right portion of the painting. I painted and then I added some lines around it. This is kind of how I think developed idea can gradually dissolve into chaos when you discover something new. And this one I kind of experimented with like a more circular painting medium, and yeah, basically the same idea as before. This one I show how like a spark of thought can turn into a more complete idea. Like you can see at the left portion of the painting, there's only a line and a 2D and very flat, like a circular red shape, but it gradually turns into a more colorful or more refined form with a lot of modification in the middle. And this one is an experimentation I did for another direction, but I didn't really like it. There's a heart in the middle, and there's some swans, also kind of show my complicated ideas. But yeah, I don't really like the color in this, and the composition is a little bit too messy, and it's hard to see a lot of details, I say. And this is my most interesting piece. So I did this very intuitively, so it's hard to explain what I was doing, but what I believe is that the swan wings really kind of show like, the logic thinking you have isn't just, pragmatic and code, but rather it's like, it has emotion with this. Like a lot of logic thinking are actually supported by your emotions. It cannot exist without your emotion as your foundation. And the colors are just, also show like the kind of a celebration of my thinking, kind of like that. And that's all.